everything is for sale in America now. And the street culture, the so-called black street culture, which there really is no such thing, is just that criminality and poverty which exists in all groups in America. It's only turned into well, not only, but primarily turned into entertainment when it's amongst black people. And watching Jim Jones in the whole him versus Nas debate, what's important isn't, you can like Jim Jones, you can like Nas. Jim Jones probably is more influential than Nas, which is disturbing because obviously Jim Jones, I mean, he lucked up into some hit songs, I guess, that Max B wrote for him or whatever, which I never liked Jim Jones. Like, Summertime in Miami didn't even sound like it was mixed right, but that's here nor there. But Jim Jones' real legacy is, along with Lil Wayne, at least Lil Wayne, I guess, could rap, is popularizing being a blood like a fashion statement. Like, I'm old enough, I was into rap, like, I remember all these things happening, and it was Lil Wayne and Jim Jones, but Jim Jones really ran with it and kept it going, and Lil Wayne would just kind of mention it in songs. Lil Wayne was not really rolling around with some big set of bloods. I mean, he probably interacted with different people in different cities, but Jim Jones certainly seemed like he's part of the 9 Trey bloods that Tekashi was a part of. And remember the infamous phone call where he tells Mel Matrix that Tekashi needs to get super violated. And in innumerable federal trials, expert witnesses about gangs have testified that the phrase super violate means to kill somebody. Now, people say, well, if Jim Jones said that in a wiretap and he didn't get indicted, he must be an informant. Not necessarily. No, I mean, that's certainly a piece of circumstantial evidence to use to indict somebody, but Jim Jones is a celebrity and is going to have money for lawyers, and the more of a defense they know you can mount. And also, Jim Jones is not somebody with much of a criminal record. He's not like Mel Matrix or Shoddy or all these people that, were people doing things in the street. People who had been to prison. Jim Jones hasn't been to prison. And remember, the East Coast Bloods is a prison gang that spilled out onto the street. So why are you promoting a prison gang? You never even been to prison. Well, it was part of he's like a Donald Trump, where he has a deep insight into the wants and desires of a certain segment of the population that are looking for meaning. So, you're from some unknown raggedy street in somewhere in some ghetto. You ain't got a job. You dropped out of high school. You ain't getting no money selling drugs. Not that that's good. If you slap Bloods on it, or the 35th Street Bloods from a town you never heard of, well, I guess at least you have a little bit of an identity amongst some people. So Jim Jones, forget about whether he can rap better than Nas, which he clearly can't. And even with him proclaiming they have more hits than Nas, if you actually look at the sales, it's Nas who wins. But that wasn't the point of this. It's about everything in America being for sale. And now one of the last things that was considered authentic, that's why it was still exciting to people, the street culture, the black street culture, that's I think it's been sold off already. There's not really that many neighborhoods and that many people left that really are like how things were in the 80s and the 90s. Like, that whole world is going away. Only constant in human society is change, so That's not bad. Things should change, but it's still being used to market things. Because if you take away Jim Jones's whole swag, I dress like a rock star, but I'm with the Bloods, well, what do you got left? His first hit song, Certified Gangster, what was interesting about it was that was the first New York rapper. He went to Compton, he's with the Samoans, and he's with the Game. If you take away the blood part of it, it doesn't really work. If you take all them guys with red rags away from Tekashi's Gummo video, it doesn't, you might watch it and be like, oh, this is kind of catchy and interesting and weird, but it certainly wouldn't have been a big hit. You needed that street component, and through largely popularization from like Lil Wayne and Jim Jones, they made Bloods shorthand for like, oh, the Bloods say he's a Blood, so he must be street, which intrigues some people in America. Now, the Bloods and Crips spread across America in the 80s, not because of pop culture. They spread across America originally due to LA becoming the cocaine trafficking center after the crackdown on South Florida in 1982-83. So that's a different story. But the New York Blood phenomenon. Now, listen, this is what's interesting. They debate about, this is a very big negative cultural impact that Jim Jones, Lil Wayne, and others that made just saying you're a blood, we're a blood, as just like like a fashion item of, I don't think that there's any West LA Bloods on in Florence ADX at the highest security. I think there's 400 or 386 inmates at the highest security level at the Florence ADX. I don't think there's any LA Bloods out there. There's 4 New York Bloods. You got Rod Diggs, like 12 homicides out of Brooklyn. Pistol Pete, Sex, Money, Murder, which is probably the most influential of all, or at least spread the most and earliest. Oh God, there's 2 more. Magoo, I think that Magoo, or one of the other guys that was just convicted out of running things out of Virginia. Well, he's from New York too. I think he's there. And who the hell is the 4th one? There might be. I thought there's a 4th one. I can't think of it, but there's definitely at least 3. And I don't think there's any LA Blood. So the criminality. So the whole. According to, you can watch internet interviews. You don't need any secret information. Like if you want to sell drugs or something in a lot of cities on the East Coast, you're probably going to have to be tied in with the Bloods. There's other things going on, but they're in many cities and places, from smaller towns in Virginia and the Carolinas. Your buddy 1090 Jake's homeboys in the Florida Sex, Money, Murder just got indicted and grabbed. All the way up, etc., through Boston. So this obscure street gang thing out of Los Angeles has become something you can use. The corporations know, YSL, YFN, Bloods, that they can attach. These executives know how they're marketing things. That's why they love rap music in particular, and anything with young black males that they can attach potential danger or something to, because it's exciting. It's free marketing. If once in a while someone gets killed, or more than once in a while there's shootings, they beat someone up, there was a fight at the Sorts Awards, free marketing. It's exciting. Same thing with Nipsey Hussle and the Rolling 60s Crips. I can see why, if you were one of the older guys from over there whose actions and whose long prison term are what made Rolling 60s Crips famous and intimidating, and then Nipsey Hussle says it in every song and shows his tattoos, I might want some money from him too. I'm not saying that's what happened, I have no idea, but it's not illogical. And now before we move on to Mexican OT and the N-word, which is apparently something is a valuable object that you can, hey, I get to say it, it's a valuable object, but we'll get into that in a second. Before we get off the Bloods and the Crips, Serena Williams Crip walking at the Super Bowl. Now, the Crip walk has been pop culturized a long time ago, and it's not I'm not a Crip. It's not for me to care or be upset or nothing like that. But in the case of Serena Williams, it was Serena, right? Found it very strange she would choose to do that, as her sister, Yetunde, was murdered by Crips in Compton, and in the movie starring Will Smith as their father, that came out a couple years ago that they gave Will Smith an Oscar for, even though I watched some scenes, it just seems like he was doing like a dumb southern accent. It was his sole acting thing, but whatever. But the scenes I watched in that movie that I happened to see specifically were, and I guess this is all supposed to be their life story, so it should at least be somewhat based in reality, is they're at the park in Compton, because that's where they're from, home of the Compton Crips, practicing tennis. They're 16, and there's some, presumably because they got on dark colors and blue, they don't have on red, supposed to be Crips harassing the teenage girls. The father, Will Smith, stands up to them. They assault him. Right? So, in her supposed life story, her sister is harassed by the Crips. Her father's assaulted by them. And then Yetunde, I think her name was, in the year, when did this happen? 2011. She had a boyfriend in South, from around Compton, which is fine, but he was involved in some drug stuff or something. So him and her were riding, and they stopped at this house in Compton that was used for drug sales, but there were rival Crip sets that said, we control this house, we control this house. While they were stopped there, happened to be two Crips from the other group drive by. A black Crip and a white Crip or a white guy from Compton who was with the Crips, probably a Crip, stopped. The white guy was driving. His friend hit the car up that had Serena Williams' sister and the guy with an assault rifle. I don't remember if the guy died, but she did. The two guys were sentenced to long prison terms. So speaking of white Crips, then now we've had so many years of blaxploitation, right? We've all seen from the 70s on, but especially in the last 10 years, whatever, extreme, all these black musical acts, especially that, they're popular, listen to their music, and bam, he's murdered or he's in jail. So we've seen, they've been using that to entertain us, because it is, in the sense that, many of us have a natural reaction. You hear a bunch of noise outside, like a car wreck, ambulance, sirens, police sirens. You go outside and look. Humans are drawn to drama inherently. Probably just as a defense mechanism. If something crazy is going on outside your house or down the street, you probably should know what it is. And then you get there and you're looking and, So obviously we're all familiar with traffic slowing down to look at a car wreck, which is what a lot of this, watching 19-year-old guys from the inner city get popular, and then, by acting really wild and talking about wild shit in public, and then getting killed, and then we're sad, and then we pick another one to like for 6 months till he gets killed. It's pretty sad and it's pretty sick. So we've been seeing that for so long. Now that's losing its thrill. Now we got to find something more exotic and obscure. Now YouTube is full of, oh, this, we're going to interview a white Crip, the white blood, and what was it like in prison? Who'd you sit with in prison, and what'd you have to, and who'd you have to fight, and did the skinheads come after you, and all this really, you know, I mean, all type of stuff happens, but like, what's so entertaining about that? Like, it's just another layer of like someone with a probably difficult life that's gonna be your entertainment. And then you debate about, oh, is he real, and what did he do, and did he kill somebody? And then now you guys have your, what do you call them? YCs, your young crackers that you're entertained by. So you got like a little Tyler, or whatever, or a little something out of St. Louis who killed somebody, so he's real. Now because he killed a black person, does he get to say the N-word? Because Mexican OT said he gets to say it because nobody's going to do nothing about it. Now, it is true that rap music, which has become, well, for a lot of years, it was the most popular genre, but even as it's fallen back a little bit, a lot of pop music is so heavily influenced as half rap music. You know, the N-word is so prevalently used. And humans repeat what you hear. Like, that's how babies obviously learn to speak, from hearing people speak around them, right? That's why, oh, I'm going to speak Chinese to my baby so that he can pick it up, because their brains are picking it up. Well, even as adults, we might not be able to learn a whole new language easily, but if you're around, think about groups of friends. Everyone has their little jokes and slang terms about whatever, and you all tend to pick them up. Right? We have our little inside jokes of our friends. Well, you'd almost have to make a conscious effort not to be hearing the N-word if you're someone who listens to music at all. So if someone said, you know what, I hear it so much that sometimes I slip up and say it, you may not like that, but I mean, it's a legitimate. But to just say, oh, and then you got the Texas white Dallas rapper, where they feel the need. Well, they're being egged on by Adam 22. They're looking for, again, we've burned out the normal, just the black exploitation contest, and now we have to find obscure versions of a white person in the black exploitation environment. So it's so strange and bizarre, and yeah. So, and I can tell you, as someone that grew up in 99% black area in the 80s, 90s, but I'm talking about as a little kid. Let's just go back to the early 80s, mid 80s. N-word was not, I mean, it was said, but that was not something you heard all day long. That's a creation of garbage ass rap music, hip hop. That was not, again, but the people that were saying it, it was like a low life. It was something you heard at the liquor store or amongst drug people or something. It wasn't, women didn't refer to their, well, probably some did, but you didn't really hear that, oh, that's my N-word for her boyfriend. Like, that didn't come till much later. So, pretty strange. And again, just like Bloods and Crips is used to add value, right? We're going to create this persona and sell you some music. And the persona may not be created. That's the whole sick part. Like, it's real. Like, they really are doing stuff, which makes it all the more disturbing. And at the most disturbing story of all, and I mean, nothing happened about it, but it's a small thing, but it shows the ties between this and the corporate entities. The corporation told Roddy Ricch's manager, according to stuff the people involved said, in public, Yael and someone else, I would sound believable because I know enough executives and I know enough gang members to be like, oh, they have to believe that the corporate, whatever record, executive he was under or somebody was like, well, make sure he's in the gang, like get him jumped in to the Park Village Captain Crips. So they had to give him a real light put on just for the marketing. So listen, if you are born into these environments, you're in a gang, this is the war, and then you're going to use that to your advantage to sell yourself, good for you. You should, because you need to use whatever you got. But for a corporate entity to tell a young person you got to get put in a gang for your marketing, and you see how bad Roddy Ricch fell off because they created, even though Roddy Ricch was, and I like Roddy Ricch, everybody did for 2 years or 3 years. So, yeah, the state of the culture. I think that I'm finishing up this documentary, Beyond Street Dreams, about this basically 100 years of time of which black people started coming to the cities of America after about World War I up until here, the pandemic. And I feel like the end of 100-year era, you have people like, Big Meech who rose to people treat him like some people talk, before his supposed fall from grace, which who knows what the truth of that is. People would talk about him like he was Martin Luther King or something. Oh, he's a great man. He did a lot for the community. Now, Meech didn't do favors for a lot of people, and that's fine. And so do a lot of drug dealers. I'm not calling them evil. I got friends that were formerly bigger drug kingpins than him. But it's just pretty interesting. Like, I certainly don't think of them as being like Martin Luther King Jr. But what do you guys like? Is the whole like street culture that some of us grew up in, or these neighborhoods, or thought of like watching the gang members on No Jumper and all this other stuff? It's just kind of like it feels like you're watching the leftover version of something that already happened. And these corny crime shows, Kanan and Raising Kanan and Power and BMF and Sons, not just the black ones, Sons of Anarchy, they're unwatchable. I mean, for anyone that's been around some real criminals, listen, I get it. For people who have a job, you want to come home, smoke your little weed and watch something. You just want to be entertained. It doesn't have to be real. So you like those shows, that's fine. I'm not mad. But obviously someone that does documentaries about this stuff and has met all type of, like, let me tell you something. Sons of Anarchy is the fakest of all. Because about some of the few people I ever interacted with that I actually was like nervous around, who were just sinister, or like real bikers. They had like a whole different, like everyone else is into getting money. They more so, instead of like where the money at, like who can we hurt? Is it gonna be you? Like, so no one in Sons of Anarchy, despite all the crazy things they did, none of them seemed sinister in the way that some real people do. And then, so what are your thoughts? Do you think that all this, I think it's all just been commodified. There's a lot less, there's plenty of crime in America and all that, but as far as, I don't know, it's just interesting that legal products that major corporations are partnered up with are very clearly using the notoriety of gang names, Bloods, Crips, other things in other cities. But Bloods and Crips especially, mainly because they come from LA, the entertainment movie capital, and things from here are very influential. It's funny living, they're not funny, interesting living in California, and you just kind of see like how a lot of California stuff, just styles of all sorts of things, influences the country. And it's just because the movie industry's here. It's not that the stuff is any more interesting than anywhere else. And I'm not saying it's less interesting, but it's just a different set of behaviors in a different place, a different culture. America's so large that, I mean, it's really an empire made up of, you got Native Americans, you got the Alaskan and Aleutian Islanders, the Eskimos. It's two totally distinct groups of people. African Americans, but remember, a lot of 20% of people counted as black weren't even born in the United States. They're from Africa or the West Indies. So that's really two different sets of people. So that's four sets of people. Then it's Hispanic. Okay, well, you got Cubans, which are separate from Puerto Ricans, which are separate from Mexicans, which are separate from Central Americans, actually. So there's about eight sets of people. And then that's before we even have gotten to the white people, which are, 230 million people who are all different kinds of people. But the criminality, poverty, tragedy amongst America's population in general, but especially the black population, has been used for so long to market things.